Welcome back, guys. In today's video we will take a look at this. The Batrium battery management system. What I'm going to do today is a little bit different because I'm going to set up an environment with a 3S system hooked up to this system, and I'm going to go through from start to end how we set it up. So here we have all the components from the Batrium that you need for a simple setup. Actually, you really don't need this for actually start going. So let me introduce to you what this is all about. Here you have the Watchmon. The Watchmon is the master unit that controls everything. It has a lot of different inputs and outputs around it. For instance, you could hook up a shunt to it. You have the normal chain of the longmons or the mons, and you have the wireless unit here based on the ESP8266. This will make this unit in such a way that you actually can get the data from it wirelessly. And of course you have an expansion port where it actually could hook up several other systems as well, or expansion boards actually. Here on this corner here you have the mons. In this setup, this is a rather basic setup because it utilizes the master as the master, and then you hook up a certain amount of slaves to it. And the slaves in this case that I have here are the longmons, and you can see why they are called longmons. Long because they are long, mons stands for the monitoring. The system here is a passive setup, I would say, or actually a heat dissipation system where it actually burns off the energy from the cells that are too high. The longmons itself also have two temperature sensors, one here down here that actually measures the part that dissipates the heat, and one on top here that measures the system itself. If you want to know more about what they are capable of, or how to connect them up, or how the expansion ports are set up, I suggest that you look into their webpage, and I have linked everything down below. If you buy a 14S kit, you will get everything directly. In the cables here, as you can see, you have two connectors, ring-based connectors here. They will be hooked up to the battery. And this is very important that you actually hook them up directly to the poles, so you don't hook them up together before the battery. The wires itself is around 26 AWG, and they are rated to actually be able to cope with 2 amps. Everything about that will consist or be considered to be a fuse, and this is one of the considerations they did when they actually made this. So even though they seem to look thin, that's taken into account on the system, and it's actually also taken into account on the Watchmon and on the software to make sure that the measuring is accurate. You have two connectors here. Along one itself you also have two connectors, because when you connect this up, you go from the Watchmon to the first longmon, from the first longmon to the second one, to the second one, to the third one, and the third one back to the Watchmon. And that will cause a daisy chain loop. In this case I also have prepared a couple of wires to actually get power to the Watchmon. You can power the Watchmon either from USB or from the battery bank itself. I'm going to hook this up to be powered from the battery bank. If you want extra stuff to this system, I do recommend to get the shunt. The shunt itself do incorporate a couple of functionalities in the software and in the system itself, and one of them is to actually tell the state of charge. On the normal lithium ion batteries like this one's here from a laptop cells, it's actually pretty easy to tell the state of charge. But if you're using this type here, that does look pretty similar, but it isn't, because this is lithium iron phosphate batteries. You will not be able to tell the state of charge in the middle. And that's because the curve of the charge is actually almost straight flat. So in that case, the shunt is very important. The shunt is also a very nice feature where you actually can tell how much current is going in and out of the system, and incorporating the shunt will also enable a couple of features here that could help you to protect the battery bank if you over discharge or overcharge or anything like that. The shunt also have a function to actually measure the total voltage of the system. Even though the Watchmon itself do measure it on this input here, it doesn't have the same accuracy as this one. In this first episode I just went through a little bit about the theory behind it. So if we move all the parts here aside, we will start with actually hooking up the battery. And this battery here will symbolize the 3S setup that many of you use for a 12-volt system. And it's no matter difference if you go 7S or 14S or 16S or whatever you use, it works the same. So let's take the 3 cables here. And as you can see, we have 3 cables, one for each battery. So it's just a matter of hooking this up. We will start from the bottom end here, and on the bottom end we will need the cable or the power to the actual Watchmon, and we will need the black cable from the longmon. And then we take the second one, and as you can see here, we need to incorporate the next longmon as well, and we do that like so. And now we have, let's see here if we can get everything sorted. One hook up there, and the second one goes there. So now it's time to actually proceed to the last one, and we do the same there. Positive and a minus one. And then we have the last one here, and this is the positive end. So we also add up this one here. That will be the feed to the Watchmon. So let's see if we can fix this mess up a little bit. We have the 3 communication cables. We have the negative here and we have the positive here. So let's start hooking this up with the mons. We have the 3 mons here, and they will be hooked up roughly like this. And connect to everyone. If we take the Watchmon here, you will see that they have screw terminals. This is the BMS CMU, and that's where you're going to hook it up. It's 4 leads. So we will need to cut this cable here and prepare it to actually be hooked up to this one. And we need one end to be cut off here to be hooked in to that one, and the other one will be hooked into the longmon. Let's see if I can explain this. Cutting that up, and we will take this one and... So let me prepare this a little bit quick. After some soldering, this is what I ended up with. Connectors on this one side here, and a lengthening cable on this side here. When you are lengthening this cable, it's always important that you use twisted cables. The less twist you have, the more likely you will get interference on the cables. Always use twisted cables in some way or another. This is a twisted cable inside, so that's fine as well. Now it's time to hook the last pieces up. And we have the system here. And I'm sorry for the shooting in the background, it's my son that is playing around with a sort of an air gun. So we start with the first one here. And if you look at the web page, you will see very good images on how to connect this up. It's yellow, blue, yellow, blue. And in this case it's white, blue. And we do the same thing with this one. Like that. And now we have the longmons, the actual system to longmons hooked up. It's now time for the power. And the power on this side here, you can see that the 01 and 02. 01 is the actual ground, and the 02 is the positive end. The problem here is when I hook this up, the Watchmon will actually start up directly. And as you can see, I have no fusing on this side. You should have that. You should add some kind of fuse here, but this is just a test rig, so let's do it this way. I will start with the positive one. Do not short circuit stuff here now. You need to do this correctly, otherwise you will get sparks. And we take the next one, and we're taking the next one now. The Watchmon should start up. So let's see if you can see that. We have the light there. And as you can see, it did boot up. It's a little bit of like that. So there we go. Make sure they are tight and everything. So this is the basic first start. We have hooked up the system, but we haven't hooked up the longmons itself. So let's do that. We always start with the communication cables itself. So let's hook every one of those up, and you need to do this very gently here, because they are fragile. And you have a small edge on the bottom side, and that should be towards the PCB itself. If you do it all the way around, you will screw it up. When hooked in here, it's also good to mention that there should be some gap here between, roughly 1 millimeter. It also says that in the manual. Let's see if we can have them down. And we take the next one, same procedure here. And we take the last one that have this here hooked up. Like that. So basically we have the communication hooked up now. So now it's time to hook up the power to them. Take the first one here. See if I can show you. Same procedure. And this one should light green first. And depending on the voltage on the cell, it might flash red or it might flash something else. Let's take the next one. Make sure you have it correctly. The red and black should be in the middle. Same here. Starts green and it blinks red. We need to check that later on. And the last one we do the same with. And we hook this up as well. And we have the same procedure there. And it seems like this one gone dead. And I'm thinking that that's because we have a dead cell here. So basically here we have the setup. The 3 longmons, 3S system and the Watchmon. Very simple, and everything is hooked up. But what now? It's blinking away everywhere, nothing seems to be happening properly, I don't know. So let's hook this up to the computer and I will show you how to set up the basic things in Watchmon to get this going. So now it's time to hook up the Batrium system to the software. And here is their web page. Before we hook that up, you have all of the information that you need or kind of need on the support page, like how do you install the Watchmon toolkit software that we're going to do now, or even how you connect the longmons or the cell mons that we did before, and even connecting the shunt and everything like that. So let's install the Watchmon toolkit software. First you need to download the software from here, and when that's done you install it. You have all the information on how to do it here, so that's just going through. You get the software, you accept it and you install it, and you press yes and you launch it. When you have installed the Watchmon toolkit programs, you will get in the menu of the Batrium software something called the Tensi USB installer. The thing is that on some of the computers out there, the USB driver for the Batrium Watchmon may not have been installed beforehand, and if so, you need to install this manually. If you do not have the driver, the Watchmon toolkit will not recognize the Watchmon board itself, and if that happens, you need to go here and install the USB. When doing that, you will get a couple of screens here, as you can see on their web page. It's just a matter of clicking OK and installing the driver, and when that's done, you will be able to connect to it. If you are unsure of this one, just run it, because the installer will tell you if it's installed or not. And here we have it, the software itself. So let's maximize it. And now it's time for me to hook up the USB cable. That's just a normal USB. So let's do that. And it installed it, and it's now hooked up to the system. As you can see here, it looks a little bit weird, a lot of warnings and stuff like that. So first we need to go into the hardware menu, and you understand it. You go and make sure that the system is set up properly, and that should be fine. I go to the cell mon, that is the important part. I edit it. I press advanced and I change the type of battery, and I'm going to use lithium ion long life. And most of the normal settings will then change in such a way that it works for you. But the cell mount type itself is something you need to change as well, and I'm going to change that to longmon. The next part is actually to set up how many longmons you have, and I have 3. Saving that as 3 and total range, save it, and then you go back to device sync, and the sync is running, and when that's done it should go to collection, or if it is in normal, but if it says idle here, you press device collector. You go back to the chart again, and it should have a nice 3 rows. So what we see here is the 3 longmons that we have, and they are from 3.92 volt to 408 volt, and that's everything that we need to know. So now the basic system is actually up and running, as you can see here. The shunt von Sendine do need this contact to be pressed, because it's sent without being contact to me. And if you get it like this, you will need to do it as well. So let's do that. First of all, you need to grab a cable that do work for you. And I'm using EKKX, a cable that is perfectly fine for this purpose. And we have 4 wires, and it's 4 contacts here. So let's start with soldering or getting the contacts pressed together before we actually attach it. I firstly just add some soldering to it, because I have no proper tool for this. And then I go back and add this one. When that's done, I take a plier and I bend down those, just like a tool would have done. And when that's done, you get something like this, and it should be fine. So let me do the other ones. So when you have all 4 done, it's actually time to get them into this shell here, and this can be a little bit tricky. I do recommend to look at Batrium's webpage for this, because they have a pretty good manual on how to connect them and which pin goes where. If you do this wrong, nothing should really happen, so don't worry. But the problem is, if you push those wrongly inside here, you won't get them out easily. In my case, I don't have the same colors as they have on their webpage, so I need to improvise somewhat. On this, let's see if I can show you. There is a small tab on one of the side, and I would call that the back side. And if you look in this one here, you will see that actually fits only one way as well. The tab would go to the outside, so you just gently press them in. They should click when they are in. If they don't, you haven't got them in enough. You may need to use a small screwdriver to do this. There, we got it, and you might have heard the click. So let's take the second one, and let's help with the screwdriver again. Click. And let's take the third one. Click. And that's this side. Now it's time to actually hook them up to the board itself. And when doing this, I recommend not to have the board turned on. Let's start with the first one, and I know that the first one regarding my color combination is the white one, and that goes to number 15. And the second one should be the blue one. That's the first step. The second step is actually to attach this shunt here. And the shunt itself can be mounted either that way or that way, and that will work. And it really doesn't matter, because you can turn it all the way around in the software afterwards. But if you go the correct direction, this should be connected to the battery, and this should be connected to the inverter. So let's do that now. What you need to think about when doing this is to hook it up on the negative side. because the lead that you have hanging out from this type of shunt should be connected to the positive side and act as the metering over the whole battery pack. So I'm going to remove this now. So basically the negative lead to the actual Watchmon will be tied on this side and the battery on this side. So let's see if we can get this together. It's a little bit tight to do this. And as you can see, even though I have disconnected the lead to the Watchmon, it still is functioning and blinking away, and that's because it's actually powered from the computer now. And even though this may not be optimal to actually do it like I do where it is hot wired, the system actually worked pretty well on it, so that's at least something good. The shunt is tied to that pole, a little bit dirty, so let's do this one here, and I need another screw. And I'm actually going to remove the USB for now. And as you can see, I have this cable here as well, and I'm just going to take this crocodile clip and attach it to the positive side, and that's because it's not long enough, so I do it like that. And now this is a little bit sketchy, so let's see if we can get it all working. I have hooked up the shunt as well, so now let's turn to the software. Back in the software again, you need to go into menu, hardware, go to the shunt page, edit it, and if you're running the same as me, you're going to select the first one, the 102 mod, and you save it. And when hooked in, you will or should get the details directly here. And we can go back again to the chart, and you will see that we have the shunt voltage. That's actually voltage across the batteries. And then we have the amps, and that's what's driving the actual Watchmon right now. And for instance, you have the supply voltage here as well. That should be very, very close to this one here. So basically, guys, that's how simple it is to set this system up and get the first glance of it running. As you can see here, we have everything here. We have the software running, and we have the shunt connected, and we have the Watchmon, and everything is hooked up. Even though this may seem like a mess, this is a very typical and simple setup where you have one mon per battery, and everything is tied in a ring around. The shunt itself is connected to its own port, actually that one, and as long as you do that one correctly, that should not be an issue as well. And on this side you then hook up the load. Hopefully, guys, you like this video. I spent quite a long time doing it, and I have been thinking on how I should do this, and at the same time I come up with I need to do it in a very, very simple way where I don't go into the actual advanced details. And hopefully you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe and like my channel as well. If you want to know more of the Batrium products, I suggest that you actually go to the Batrium website. I can most likely answer some simpler questions if you have anything regarding how I did this here. Thank you guys for watching this whole episode. If you like the content, don't forget to actually like the video and place a comment. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, do that as well. And I also have somewhat of a challenge to you guys. I ask you to subscribe to the channel and also invite a friend to subscribe to my channel. And if you are already subscribed to my channel, I have an even bigger favor for you. I would ask you to actually ask 2 of your friends to subscribe to my channel. I want my channel to grow to be big, and by doing that I also can spend more time on the channel and create better content and more content for you guys. And if you want to help out in another way, there is a link below for Patreon and PayPal. Thank you guys again for watching, and I see you next time. Bye!